Hmm. Today we're going to discuss school procedures and expectations. As a teacher, you have to set these procedures and expectations, give students an idea of what to expect and what you are expecting of them. From day one, you should be explaining these procedures and expectations and just routines and everything that the way your classroom is managed and goes. You need your students to get a good understanding of this before you can go forward with your learning and teaching. As you can see, we have certain expectations in the classroom. One expectation that should be really discussed is students should be on time and in their seat by the time the bell rings. I think this is a very important expectation. You don't want students lollygagging and hanging out and messing around outside the classroom or running in late, which just creates a distraction and wastes class time. So this would be one of the first things I would explain in the classroom from day one. As soon as they sit down, I'd make sure if anyone does come in late, I would explain how important this is. Make sure that they all understand how important it is and what will happen if they are not late. I will lay down the expectations and the procedures for what happens when you're late for the first time. You can get a warning. If you're late again, that can be contacting their parents, and so forth. And if it gets to be worse, we will have to take it up with administration and things like that. But I think that is a huge expectation that I should set and focus on today. Um, Also, another one I expect today is not leaving your seat unless asking permission prior. I have dealt with this in the past of students just getting up and wanting to go talk to their friends, and I think you need to make this clear to your classroom that that is not allowed unless you raise your hand and ask and explain where you're going to go. If you have students just getting up, walking around, it just creates more and more distractions. So these would be the two expectations and rules that I would implement and introduce from day one, and I think they're very important. Um, there is procedures. Um, the introduction to the procedures are right here. I did some for that. Um, Teachers will send a syllabus to the students to review, and on the very first day, you can go over the syllabus and talk about expectations, talk about rules, and talk and just explain to them exactly what will happen when these rules are broken. That way, they have a perfect idea of it. I think another or a task to inherit or important tasks inherent to the expectation, procedures, and rules. I think one of those would be, or setting the stage and introducing expectations. The way I would do this is by setting up different signs that you can reference to when things happen. Um, Say a student is misbehaving, I could point to the sign and explain and ask them to read it for me and then ask them, what did you do wrong? And what's going to happen since you did it wrong? And if they had already been warned, I'll have them tell me what's going to happen and then I'll proceed to make that happen. I want them to have a firm understanding and a firm grasp of exactly what will happen if you are misbehaving or breaking any of the rules. Some of the challenges faced when creating the classroom as a community. I think that is when you want to create a classroom as a community, you want to just establish that it is incredibly important to respect one another and treat everybody fairly. Anytime, I think that that's another important rule that as soon as it happens, you have to establish discipline. Some ways to establish discipline, and like I said, is having them explain to you what happened and having them explain what's going to happen next. I think that's just a great way to ensure that they understand it. Some strategies to establish discipline, rewards, and consequences. You can all do this that way. If a student is acting really well, you can reward them with small things. I've seen teachers use things like candies, just for acting great. Um, But as for discipline, say it's late homework assignments or showing up to the classroom late, misbehaving in the classroom, you just have to ensure that you are consistently disciplining students for breaking these rules. If you begin to become flippy floppy about it and not give consequences to certain students, students will catch on to that and see that that's not fair, and then they will start taking advantage of it. So you have to ensure that you are consistent. Consistency is key when establishing discipline, and yeah, that's just a great way to ensure that they understand what will happen. As for technology in the classroom, Google Classroom is going to be something I want to get them familiar with from day one because it's something that I firmly believe in is great for classrooms. It establishes communication between the teacher and the students, and it's a place where they can go and check their grades, check what's due, check what's coming up, or just see news in the classroom. And also, parents can review this, and it gets them more involved, which I think this is a great way to do that. And through Google Classroom, I'll actually introduce different programs that they can work on through the computer to actively encourage the use of technology. And some of these programs will promote community and authentic learning experiences by having them work together or having their families help them or assortment of things like that. Um, but when it comes to technology, um, there'll be a huge focus on helping them use programs and helping them understand the importance of the computers and things like that. That way they are not taking advantage, breaking things, or ruining it for other students.